Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started on the panel discussion, there is a small exercise we'll be conducting with the panelists over here. So I'll be, for each one of you, taking out an object from this bag. And within 5 seconds, you have to identify the object. And while doing that, please look towards the camera. OK? So Arvind, we'll start with you. Be seated. It's OK. Be seated. Just keep looking at the camera. Water bottle.
Flower.
That was quick.
Chain.
Keychain. That was a bit of a fumble.
Pen.
That's a pen. OK, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have proven they are all human. You know, you can never be sure these days. Too many controversies with bots around. So I thought this should be a standard practice we adopt going forward. You never know these days. I don't want to be in the same mess as the university in the AI summit. So we are all real over here. And the interesting thing about this panel is that it is unrehearsed. So there has been no question paper leak. So none of them had an opportunity to use ChatGPT or Claude to come up with answers. So whatever they say over here will be straight from their experience and straight from their heart. Okay? And so that's what will make this panel unplugged and fun. Okay? So we have to talk about archetypes of GCC leaders. And I don't think we can talk about archetypes of GCC leaders without having the context of archetypes of GCCs itself. Okay, there can be no one-size-fits-all kind of archetype. So I would like to start by having some discussion amongst us about what are the various GCC archetypes out there which have emerged over the last 20 years. So KSV, I'll start with you. You have been there right since this industry started practically. We have about 2,000 or so GCCs in the country. What do you think is the kind of breakup in terms of GCC archetypes? Scale players, capability drivers, innovation drivers, P&L drivers, etc. What have you seen?
And you forgot the most important,
Yes.
the cost driver.
That's the scale one.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
Now, for me, if I had to split, the core is cost. We are fooling ourselves. End of the day, we are fooling ourselves, saying that cost doesn't matter. Our virtue of India is cost. Let's admit that. But having built that as a core, if I had to split this 1,900 GCCs that we have in the country, approximately about 8 to 9% of them are purely as an outpost. You tell us, we'll do. We don't do anything else more to do. And believe it or not, they're doing a brilliant job, very brilliant job. For example, there is one GCC from Germany for last 5 years. He's been running it for 25 years, the GBS function. Last 7 years, he has been producing 8% productivity year on year and 5% contribution to bottom line year on year. Unbelievable strategic asset of the organization. Other extreme is 9% are the people who are building an enterprise co-pilot for their organization, like what you heard from Sunil and kind of people. There are 8 to 9% of the people are in that space, right? Completely transform the global leaders instantly sitting in India. About 60% are leveraging capacity in India, not 60%, 45% leveraging capacity in India purely for talent, what it comes. High, low, doesn't matter, talent. And the balance 30% of people were the nuggets are using for transformation and innovation. The split is close to about 50% of people are on the right side of the curve, and close to 50% of the people are left side of the curve, and all of them doing brilliant job for the enterprise.
Thanks, KSV. When you said it's just 9 to 10% who are there for cost arbitrage, I was a bit surprised.
No, all 100%. All 100% for cost arbitrage.
Cost arbitrage, okay.
The 9-10% are purely delivering productivity improvement for the parent organization.
Understood. So let's look at one of the big archetypes here, that is the one which is building capability. So Arvind, coming to you, what do you think are the characteristics of a leader who should be leading this kind of an enterprise?
That's a good question. I have
a little different way of explaining it. I call it as a fact leader, F-A-C-T. And why do I say that? For me, F stands for the foresightness. In this all AI-driven fast velocity era, the leader has to have that foresightness on what is coming on his way. And then followed by A, which is adopt and act. So the foresightness of what is coming on your way, you need to be fast enough to adapt to those changes and then be a doer by yourself, so act on that. And the third is C, which is, I think it has been the part of all the archetypes, which is, cultured governance. It was there, will be there continuously. I don't think this particular aspect will change whatever happens to the different archetypes of the GCC ecosystem. And the last is the T, which is talent, magnet. This is the most important pillar of the GCC ecosystem success. So the fact leader is what I would consider as the most important leadership archetype for the GCCs from now on to the future.
That's great. Fact, that's a nice acronym. Talking about being a talent magnet. Rajesh, what makes a person a talent magnet?
Okay. Thanks, Sameer, for having us. And I'll say, you didn't have to do this eye testing exercise, whether we are human. You could have asked for a disclaimer. I would say, I'm Rajesh and I'm a human. I would have said that anyhow. But anyhow, see, the talent magnet has multiple dimensions to that. First is the foremost, no matter what you do in the industry, your companies or the GCCs or the main organizations' mission, vision, purpose, and value, that is super important. People should be able to connect, and I can talk about Kenvue in certain ways, right? And the second thing is the impact of the work that you're going to be delivering. And again, whether this is a cost arbitrage GCC or whether it is an innovation GCC, the archetype keeps changing. But the impact that an individual who walks into the office as a candidate, he wants to get hired. Or she wants to get hired, right? So as long as you can immediately connect to the vision, values, and the purpose of the organization, and you know that the work you're going to be doing, where exactly that is going to be falling into the overall jigsaw puzzle, you connect it, that is immediately becomes a strong, die-hard aspiration for that individual to join. Whether they get the offer, they join it, that's a secondary discussion, but that is number one. Second thing is, how do you position yourself in the market? Even before the person comes into the organization for an interview, what is that person seeing for you in the organization? So LinkedIn becomes a parameter. LinkedIn becomes your social positioning. You are an innovation house. You are a house which is just executing things for the organization. So that positioning becomes important. And third and most important thing for today's world, depending on the demographics of your organization, it is all about how flexible you are, not from a compensation point of view, in terms of what kind of values you provide to the the employees to work on, from a flexibility, number of working days in the office, or from a insurance or some of the other incentives that you provide. That becomes absolutely super critical for people to say, yeah, I can compromise on some small little things here and there, but if my work is important, impactful, company stands for legacy, richness of all the products and the business ideas, and I have flexibility to express myself and I can work on some of my own terms, that is the talent magnet I'm looking forward to, and that forms the core of the culture.
Yeah, but Rajesh, what you're talking about is the employee value proposition of the organization. Okay, what Arvind was saying is that the characteristic of the leader should be that the leader should be a talent magnet. So Rathnaprabha, in your experience, what makes the leader a talent magnet?
Thanks, Sandeep. So for me, I think making use of your geographic presence is extremely important. So transforming your geographic presence to a strategic power is something that really brings out the talent that we need, and then what we bring to the table, right? So for me, one is we need to stop thinking headcount, SLAs, and these kind of things that we thought of cost arbitrage. And we really need to think about, what capital we control, what platforms we own, what IPs and patents we own, what type of strategic decision making we control. So to me, the transforming the complete, what we did versus what we are doing in terms of the external presence is also a lot of internal power. So how we're present outside in our ecosystem with VCs, bringing the VCs into conversations, owning startup products or co-creating the startup products, making sure that we are redesigning AI workflows, and making sure we are adopting AI at an enterprise scale. I can think of a lot more things, which is also building the narrative. The narrative is extremely important with data, what you do with your narrative. At a board, even if you're given a board seat, thinking of yourself as an equal, and making sure that we are bringing the entire enterprise interest, keeping that in mind globally, but bringing our strategic presence into it, and making sure that we are able to definitely bring our accountability to our decision making. What I'm saying is, if we bring our accountability to make sure that we have the strategic decision making power, and make sure that the capital, I think the most important thing is who we report to, making sure that our global lines are strategically influential, and the capital that we control, or instead of getting project budgets, we really need to control what gets spent and where it is getting spent, and how we design and architect that capital spent for the organization. I think that to me is presence, and that builds an ecosystem in the organization that is completely looking at the global line very differently.
Yeah. Let me come to you, KSV. What I'm trying to bring out is, what is that certain endearing quality about a leader which would make someone from the outside want to work for him or her? So the individual, purely the individual's brand as a talent magnet.
No, great point. I think I agree with many things what Prabha said. A, the leader needs to have a presence. A, very important. B is ability to influence peers and others who don't directly report into you. C, what we simply dismiss it off in India being an 𝗥𝗲𝗱𝗶𝗃, which is otherwise called being resourceful, getting things done. And D, but not the least, ability to, I think Samir in the earlier session did point out, ability to build, reimagine the entire ecosystem, and reimagine entire support system for the new era that we're getting into GCC. If a leader can bring this, he or she will be able to attract the kind of talent that is required.
So Arvind, I'll throw it back at you since you kind of coined the term. Tell me this, would it be helpful to become a social media influencer to develop this kind of a persona? And we see a lot of GCC heads being social media influencers. So is that a good thing or a not so good thing?
I think it will definitely help. Knowing one fact, whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, all of us, we are part of this GCC ecosystem where social media is an integral part of it, and our talent acquisition and retention strategies are also tied up with the social media heavily. So if you are not present, if you are not seen, it is not seen in good terms with the young talent which we are trying to hire. So again, you like it or not, I think it's a requirement of the GCC ecosystem.
So Rajesh, do you think that past loyalties make a difference? So if I have worked with Rajesh in company A and I had a great time, now if Rajesh moves to company B, there is a natural tendency or ability on the part of Rajesh to attract the same talent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is a wonderful question, of course, Sandeep. See, it helps, but I don't consider this as completely a decisive criteria for the two simple reasons. One, familiarity with an individual always helps in terms of you know what that individual's motivational factors, SWOT analysis, or those things you would have got it done. But then you just don't bring those people based on if you are familiar with that person. You bring that person based on the merit of the role that person needs to be hired in the organization, number one. And that person may have done wonderfully well in your past organizations in different contexts, but the new organization context, culture may be different and requirement could be different as well. So depending on what stage of your GCC you are in, depending on what the role requirement and the cultural requirement is, that could be a good foot in the door for that person to be evaluated in multiple senses, but not necessarily a guarantee card, not essentially a surety that this person will get a role because he or she may know me and this could be good from a skill point of view, but at certain leadership and above, it's not just about the skill, you need to bring the culture with yourself as well. And you don't want to dilute the culture of a larger GCC just because one person you're familiar may join in 10, 15, 20, 30 days, right? So familiarity is a card that the profile will be evaluated, but definitely the proving part still needs to be done by the familiar person.
So that's a good idealistic kind of a scenario. but let me ask Rathnaprabha. In my experience, I have seen leaders move from one organization to the other, and within the first 90 days, all the old-timers go away, and people from the past replace them. And I won't name those organizations. There are plenty of them. Do you see that happening, Rathnaprabha, and is that a good thing or a not so good thing?
I think when there are acquisitions, when new teams move in, we see this happening quite a bit. But I think mostly it is to do with the culture of the organization, right? So a person is usually a culture carrier. To me, culture is long-term. So when a person moves into an organization, he or she naturally brings in not only his personal brand and his or her personal brand, but also the culture that they carry in their workplace. So people who are familiar with that culture, which could be encouraging, let's say, experimentation. Somebody could be, they could probably create multiple global mobility pathways, or somebody could probably encourage people to really create products. So these kind of mindset or culture that you carry goes with you as a reputation in front of you. And hence, for example, I will tell you about someone in our organization who moved to our competitor. He or she was involved in a big data project that eventually led to some headcount reduction. So he carried the reputation that he is joining that organization just to cut heads. I'm not even sure that was as part of his role or he intended to do that, but that's what a person carries. So intentionally or unintentionally, people usually gather around what they hear without experiencing the person, and that is initial mistakes.
Understood. Let's change gears a bit. Rajesh, I'll come to you. KSV gave a good analysis of the composition of the GCC industry, and that's a function of history. Over the last 20 years, for a variety of reasons, the industry grew in a particular manner, right? Now, going forward, 26 and beyond, what do you think would be the archetype of the most successful GCCs realistically? Not idealistically, realistically.
Yeah, so I think we are all talking about one common denominator, which is AI generative, GCC perspective. So I think going forward, the GCCs which are going to be coming or evolving or being successful are the ones who adopt on this kind of a layer. But again, the center of every GCC success will still lie on the business outcomes. The success of the GCC will still lie on the culture, how this is being done. And the GCC site leaders will be the ones who, adopt that kind of a thing fast enough, get this in part of a culture. And again, maybe I'll just come back to this, but I wanted to complete one point from Ratna's previous point, right? See, it is okay for people from the past to be brought into the organization, and we have seen, the existing people might leave. But Sandeep, the point is that is another very critical quality of a site leader or a country head, how quickly they can mix the both, the previous and the new people into the organization from a culture and from an overall integration point of view, because it has been successful and it can break fire the whole fabric of the GCC as well. But having said that, again, the success of the future GCCs will be all about how these, the site leaders or site leadership team can continue to bridge the culture. AI, Gen AI, CI, and like Rajesh said in the morning, a lot of those things will keep coming back in the different shape, forms, and structure. But how foundationally strong that GCC is in terms of weathering those kind of storms, or continue to deliver the the business outcomes that is needed. So the influence part from a site leader is absolutely super important. The transformative part is important, and have a good balanced strategic plus operational hat on the head is always super important to keep driving the team through those storms and weathers as well. So the next wave is going to be all about generative GCCs, and the generative GCCs will not just be run by technology, it will be run by a good culture and people who can think and behave and sort of create a human culture in the organization.
So great point. So, and Arvind, so if culture is such a big determinant, right, and you spoke about it in the context of fact as well, why don't we see HR heads becoming GCC heads? Why don't they become? Why don't we see HR heads become GCC heads?
Interesting question. See, GCC head has certain set of responsibilities. He needs to run the whole GCC as a corporation, as a company, which will have extended responsibility around compliance, governance. I think HR heads can bring in, and I'm not critical of HR heads here, and I don't want to be, seen outside as this is the guy who spoke negative about HR. But see, HR...
Don't worry, we'll keep this confidential. We'll only post it on LinkedIn.
Too many disclaimers from Arvind.
Your next resume will be processed by them outside.
So, see, HR as a function is one of the most important pillars of GCC. We all agree that the whole GCC ecosystem lies around two things. One is talent, another one is technology. Technology, we all know we can get whatever we want. Talent is where the main focus is, the talent attraction, retention, every day, 24/7, all our energy goes into the talent. So HR, by default, becomes the most important pillar other than technology in the company. But GCC head, as the site leader, has extended responsibilities. As I said, as a company, you need to run the company. You need to drive the boardroom discussions about operating, building, growth, transformation, innovation, all this. So there may be a certain limitations which is beyond the functional domain of HR, which may impact the overall GCC site management.
So you believe an HR head should not become
I don't say that. I believe that. I only answered your questions that why it is not happening.
Why it is. So, but it can happen in going forward. KSV, what do you think?
You have to give time, boss. When the JCC came out, as the question that you asked, archetype was to get somebody to manage the delivery. They were coming to 8,000 miles away, don't know what they're getting into. India was still not fully known, right? Now to compare in 30 years later, JCC model has come, should they come? The answer is absolutely yes. That time perhaps required delivery managers. Now with the importance being, as Sunil also said and many leaders said today, it is one enterprise, one global leader, one organization culture. So anybody can play as long as they bring their ability to get the whole thing integrated, deliver value to the enterprise, instill huge confidence, which is quite possible. Nobody is stopping, and it's just that evolution. We have crossed the evolution. Again, a few years back it was said, if you had to be a good software programmer coder, you could be the CTO.
Yeah.
Now the saying is, if you are a good integrator, innovator, you could be a good CTO. It is our myth. Just get out of it. HR can be the best CEO for a GCC.
Very nice. So all those folks here in the audience from HR, please aspire for these positions going forward. Rathnaprabha, everyone is talking about cost and financial impact being a big element. So why don't we see people, from a CFO background becoming GCC heads?
We're targeting the finance guys now. So as KSV sir said, I think the limitation is not about what you do today as your expertise, but as a global leader, I think the qualities that you bring in terms of your ability to attract talent, your own understanding of the business, your ability to understand your clients, I think that's very important. Who are you serving, and how do you build your revenue models? How do you interact with your partner companies? And it doesn't matter, what you do today. I've seen in my previous companies, I have had good delivery leaders become HR heads. I've seen HR heads become CHRO and then client partners. So I think it is really it's an individual's personality to be able to traverse and transform oneself while playing all of these roles as a learning to building your own understanding of the business, your sector, and becoming a better version of yourself by playing multiple roles. If I would get an opportunity to play a CFO, I would. I'm sure I won't, but it's aspirational for me to play some of these roles before if I ever get a CEO role, as an example, so that you have an experience of, before you manage those divisions, if you get to play some of those roles, it adds enormous appreciation and understanding of those roles while you play the GCC head role.
Great
So
point.
Sandeep,
Rajesh,
any other functional leader to check whether they can become?
And just one thing,
So I think,
sorry.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, see, the bottom line is, what is GCC here for? To get some business outcomes, to get some delivery done for the parent organization. Rest everything is, of course, to create an ecosystem where everyone can thrive. Now, whether that can happen from HR, like KSP sir mentioned, or from a finance, depends on the context and what is predominantly happening in the GCC as well.
Sure.
So I think it is all contextual. And again, a very famous phrase everyone keeps saying, it depends.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Sorry,
I
Arvind.
was just complimenting to what she said. I am not from tech background, I am from finance background, and I am heading the GCC for Sonoco.
Outstanding.
There you go.
Great role model. So all those people in the audience who are from a finance background, please have a chat with him and get some tips on how to kind of get to these CEO positions, right? So Arvind, back to you. Lot being spoken about the impact of AI and Gen AI on GCCs. So in this context, going forward, 2026 and beyond, do you think fact still is relevant, or would you add a couple of more competencies or skills to it for a GCC leader?
Sure, for GCC leader, I think, of course, facts definitely is my way of explaining the 4 important pillars, but the orchestrator of human judgment with artificial intelligence is what I see as the most important dynamic aspect of a GCC leader who will drive it from 2026 to 2030.
Great. Rajesh, would you add to that?
Yeah, no, so I just said that from a little bit of a generative GCC perspective, right? So see, competencies are going to be still the same. The evolution of the competencies is continued, that's going to continue. Now, the fact is that yesterday what was cloud to the world, today it is AI, tomorrow it could be another term and all that. The whole talent and capability has continued to evolve in terms of developing, upskilling, and that should not just happen at the bottom of the pyramid. Even the leaders have to evolve as well, right? So how the whole ecosystem itself is going to be a capability to take the whole business forward. It always needs a village to drive the whole GCC forward, and it's going to become even more bigger because things are going to be so tightly coupled with each other going forward, how workflows are going to be integrated with accountability, traceability, and all those big keywords that we talk about. The capabilities will remain the same, but the shape, form, structure of those capabilities will continue to evolve.
Great. Rathnaprabha, you have been driving innovation in GCCs for a while, okay? In the past, essentially we were talking about the leader having to manage people with some technology helping people. Now we are moving to an era where they have to manage people and they also have to manage bots. So bots are becoming part of the workforce, okay? So in that context, is it essential for the GCC head to understand the technical aspects of managing an army of bots?
Absolutely, I think so. I take a cue from our own leadership in Morgan Stanley. Our leader, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗀, started learning AI about 9 months ago or 10 months ago. So that set the precedence on it started with a small YouTube channel video to learning in depth, coming and sitting with teams to really look at what they do, asking questions. So to me, I think the precedence is about first the leader figuring out what are the possibilities. So once you understand the art of the possibilities, then your imagination rules over, right? So with that in context, I think there is almost no other choice because every vendor product in your in-house systems are introducing agents, and agents are of multiple kinds, and the highest form is the autonomous agents. And if autonomous agents are running, I think the ultimate person who signs off on what it does is your leader. So he or she must definitely understand what are the capabilities that these autonomous agents bring, how you orchestrate these agents, and ultimately what are the risks that come with it, because of course we are all regulated entities, and when we are asking a bot to execute work on your behalf, and you are the one who's certifying it and supervising it, you absolutely have to be one step ahead of whatever it is saying, whether it's hallucinating or not. It's your ability to find where it is right and where it is hallucinating. A leader's ability to understand his or her own agents as well as humanoids, whatever you call it, in variety of industries is very, very important. And today, I think it's no more I think in the previous year, we were discussing that agents would be present along with humans. I think every organization today has multiple agents in production. They're running, and we are signing off on the work that are being executed by them, which means there's a human collaboration already. So it's human, bot, human. That is what we see in the pipeline of the workflow.
KSP, would you like to add to that?
Not to this question, this is too technical for me.
Okay.
Let me just add everything else what people have said. I'll put it this way. You said, how should a leader look like for situation in 2030, right? I'm saying what has served all of us as an entity, as a GC industry, as a tech industry in the country, we have to take a pause that it is not going to take us, the same model is not going to take us forward. I think perhaps it's very, very important that to reimagine your talent strategy. Don't hire for just this qualification that a person, he or she possesses. Look for competencies. Hire for people who can solve problem-solving capabilities, who can infuse external innovation in the country. Identify a leader who is comfortable working with make or buy decision. Those are the parameters you get. I'm seeing with AI coming in, which I'm seeing increasing awareness of people. I'm personally spending more of my time nowadays, is that everything around security. Getting your AI security, getting your data privacy security, getting your data security. So all of them put together, a leader who can anticipate the realms of possibility that she talked about. What is it required perhaps at 2030, articulate a vision, get everybody in, the leaders in this room, people sitting in this room. If you start cultivating that, we will continue to be the place to go across. I will just tell you, I was talking some time back to Rajesh, Puneyani, 4 years back when their entire Kenvue leadership was in India, look for why should they serve GCC, I asked that question to the CTO, aren't you too late? He says, no, I'm here in GCC, capability, not for getting a technology one, but to build global leadership for Kenvue globally from India. That's the way people are looking at it. So we can build that capability, vision for the future. We are continuing to be the successful for the future as well.
Awesome. We are kind of coming to the close. So one last question, which I want each one of you to individually answer. Do we think that we have enough supply of talent for GCC head positions for the next 4 years? And if not, how to procure that supply at scale? Short answers, KSV, start with you.
Yes, enroll for Latitude program.
Rathnaprabha?
Yes, plenty of supply.
Plenty of supply.
So plenty of supply, but again, I'll go a little 20-second extra. See, KSP sir mentioned that. So there's a plenty of supply, there's a plenty of aspiration, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in the market. But the core capability, the technology skill, functional skill, HR skill can be there, but the leaders need to, create a little bit of a resilience in their mindset as well. That's the core capability that the leaders, no program will be able to teach that. Rest, everything can be done. But the difference between a good, strong, stable leader versus a not so good one will be how they're resilient and how do they exhibit that in the day-to-day changing business scenario, mergers, acquisitions, splits, divestiture, and things like that. So supply is plenty, but the right ones needs to be structured from an overall selection process.
Awesome. Arvind?
I agree with her, plenty of supply, but the leaders should have that hunger of learning continuously, upskilling, and adapting to the evolving GCC ecosystem requirement.
Awesome. So I guess the characteristics for a GCC leader are no different from being a leader or a CEO in any industry anywhere in the world. You need to have the leadership competencies, you need to have hunger, you need to have, especially in today's times, the ability to learn and change continuously. And it doesn't matter where you come from. You could come from tech, you could come from HR, you could come from finance. And therefore, I leave you all with the thought, ABCD, anybody can dance. So put your dancing shoes on, the future is bright. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you to all our speakers. While I request all of you to stay back with us on stage, I'd like to invite the Managing Director, Citi, Mr. 𝗏𝗲𝗏𝗏. May we have you with us on the stage, sir, to do the honors and hand over the token of love and memento to all our speakers on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to this panel here. Thank you.